Hello and welcome to the first video in the Mystery Bounty strategy series. We're going to start off by looking at adjustments that we need to make for Mystery Bounty tournaments. Now, Mystery Bounties are a relatively new format, and because of that you see people make quite a lot of mistakes, so let's see if we can improve our games. Now, the first thing you need to do in a Mystery Bounty tournament, or any bounty tournament, is convert the Mystery Bounty into chips. And the way we do that is by finding out what the average dollar value is of each bounty, and then once we know that, we can convert it into chips. And it's important not to get distracted by all the different mystery bounties that you can win, the big $1 million bounty. All that matters is the average dollar value of each bounty. Now, what are the differences between mystery bounty and progressive knockout tournaments? When the mystery bounties start, they are worth more than PKO bounties would be at the same stage of the tournament. This is for two reasons. Firstly, all the bounty prize pool is still available when the mystery bounty kicks in, whereas in a PKO tournament, by this stage, a lot of the bounty prize pool have been taken out. Players receive 100% of the bounty value rather than the 50% they usually win of each bounty in a PKO tournament. So let's take an example. This is a PKO from PokerStars. We've got a quarter of the field remaining. The starting bounty was $50 and the average bounty is now $119. So if we do the maths, the average bounty is worth roughly 2.4 starting bounties. Most people agree that at this stage of the tournament, a starting bounty is worth a third of a starting stack. So the average bounty is worth 0.792 starting stacks. Starting stack was 5,000 chips, so the average bounty is currently worth 3,960 chips. Now, if this tournament was a mystery bounty tournament, with the mystery bounty kicking in with 25% of the field remaining, the average mystery bounty value would start off at $200, so significantly higher than the $119, and we would receive all of this. So because of that, the mystery bounty would be worth 10,000 chips, so about 2.5 times what it's worth at the equivalent stage in a PKO tournament. It's also worth noting that all the mystery bounties are worth the same. It doesn't matter whether you're up against a short stack or a big stack, whereas in the PKO tournament, the short stacks are more likely to have smaller bounties and the big stacks are more likely to have the big bounties. So in a mystery bounty tournament, it really pays to go after the short stacks. So PKO bounties are typically worth more than mystery bounties in the latter stages of a tournament. The larger the field, the more this is the case. This is because the dollar value of the average PKO bounty progressively increases, whereas the dollar value of a mystery bounty will remain static on average. And what I mean by remain static on average is, if you played the tournament infinite times, on average the dollar value of the mystery bounty would not increase or decrease. Obviously in an individual tournament it could rise significantly, it could fall significantly depending on which mystery bounties have been pulled. So let's take another example. This is a W Coupe $530 PKO, nearly 3,000 entries, and you can see that by the final table we've got some pretty big bounties, and you have to double these bounties because the PokerStars only display what you can win, so the actual bounty is double this. So the average bounty at this point is $8,946, which is nearly 36 starting bounties. Now, if this tournament was a mystery bounty tournament, and let's say the mystery bounty kicks in with 20% of the field remaining, the average mystery bounty would start off being worth $1,250, and if that remained unchanged to the final table, then we would be at the final table with a bounty that's worth about 7 times less than what it was worth in the PKO tournament that we just saw. However, if the big bounty, which might be $100,000, had not been pulled, then the average might look more like $12,000, which is significantly higher than what we saw in the PKO tournament. As you can see, the chip value is very high. The average chip stack at this point was about 15 million. If the average mystery bounty is worth $12,000, then on average it would be worth about 4.5 million chips. And as you can see, the $12,000 is significantly more than a lot of these pay jumps. So winning this bounty is the equivalent of laddering from 9th up to 6th, and that's why it's worth so many chips. Now what might be a more likely scenario is the big bounty has been pulled and we've just been left with 9 of the smallest bounties, which might be $250. If that was the case, the bounties would only be worth 126,000 chips, which, if the average chip stack is 15 million, would make the bounties pretty much irrelevant at this point. Now, one mystery bounty tournament can be structured very differently from another, so some things we need to look out for. What percentage of the field remain when the bounties start? 33%, 25%, 20%? Make a big difference. Do the bounties kick in the money or before the bubble? Now we'll go into more detail on this later. What percentage of the buy-in goes to the bounty prize pool? So typically online you'll see 50% of the buy-in goes to the bounty prize pool. In a lot of live tournaments it might be more like 30%, 35%. That makes a big difference. Obviously the more money that's going into the bounty prize pool, the more that the mystery bounties are worth in terms of chips. The MB poker calculator accounts for all these factors when it's doing its calculations. So let's look at an example. This was a recent EPT mystery bounty tournament, and as you can see, more than a third of the field remain when the bounties kicked in, and just over a third of the buy-in went to the bounty prize pool in this tournament. So because of these factors, when the bounty kicks in, it's worth less than a starting stack, which is quite unusual. Usually it's worth at least 2 times the starting stack when it kicks in. On the opposite extreme, we have a GG mystery bounty main event. So just over 10% of the field remain when the bounties kicked in. Half the buy-in goes to the bounty prize pool, and the bounties kick in the money. So because of these 3 factors, we end up with a chip value of nearly 6 times the starting stack. So radically different to the EPT example. So if you just assumed that bounties are always worth roughly the same when they kick in, you could end up making some pretty big mistakes. What adjustments do we need to make at different stages of a mystery bounty tournament? Although the dollar value of a mystery bounty will remain static on average, the chip value will increase as the tournament progresses. This happens slowly before the bubble because the bounties that remain make up a larger percentage of the gradually shrinking bounty prize pool. But the chip value of mystery bounties increases more dramatically after the bubble bursts and after every subsequent pay jump. This is because after every pay jump, money is effectively taken out of the prize pool. So if we had 100 places were paid and a min cash was $10, once the bubble bursts, $1,000 can no longer be won. So that $1,000 has effectively been taken out of the regular prize pool, even if it's not physically been paid out yet to the players. So in that previous GG example that we saw, when the bubble burst, that was nearly a third of the regular prize pool was instantly paid out as a min cash to all the remaining players, and therefore the bounty prize pool is worth significantly more than the regular prize pool at that point. Although the chip value of the mystery bounties increases as the tournament progresses, they will usually be worth less in terms of big blinds. And that's because the chip value of the bounties will increase more slowly than the big blinds increase. So they're usually worth the most in terms of big blinds when they first kick in. So let's look at an example of how the bubble bursting can affect the chip value of bounties. So in this tournament, 180 places are paid. You can see if we lose one player, the chip value goes up slightly. We lose another player, and it goes up about 30%, so quite significant, because we're now in the money.
Now there's other factors we need to consider as well as the chip value of the mystery bounties, and these include future game. How many players do we cover now, and how many players will we cover if we lose or win the pot? So if we're a big stack and we cover everyone at the table and we get a marginal spot, we might want to turn it down if losing the pot means that we will no longer cover the table. The flip side of that is if we're a short stack, we might want to gamble in order to cover more players at the table, because so much of our equity comes from being able to bust players and win the bounties. If we bust the tournament, we cannot win any more bounties. How are our opponents adjusting? Are they gambling too much or not enough for bounties? You typically see people probably gamble too wide for bounties, calling off super wide, even against bigger stacks, where they're just not getting the right price. But there are times where you can just call any two cards, and people might not realise that. Short stacks should be shoving a tighter range. It's because they have less fold equity. They should also be shoving a more high card heavy range, so hands like offsuit aces, offsuit kings go up in value if we're going to get looked up by middling cards. Whereas suited connectors, baby pairs, these are don't make as good a shove. So if we're up against a good player, then we should bear in mind that he'll probably be adjusting his shoving range. ICM, it's less significant than in vanilla tournaments, but still something we should always be cognizant of. Because a portion of the prize pool goes to the bounty prize pool, the ICM is less significant than in vanilla tournaments. And the min cash, for example, in a bounty tournament is typically about the same as the buy-in, whereas in a vanilla tournament it might be more like 2 times the buy-in. And if we have a chance to win a bounty which might be worth on average twice what the min cash is, then even as a short stack near the bubble, it might be worth gambling for that bounty.
So in summary, you always need to be aware what the chip value of the mystery bounty is. Mystery bounties are usually worth the most big blinds when they first kick in, so this is when we should gamble for them the most. They go up in value once we're in the money and after subsequent pay jumps. They are usually less valuable in the final stages of a tournament, but not always. As we saw, if some of the big bounties are still available, then they might still be quite significant. The value of mystery bounties can vary radically depending on the tournament structure. So as we saw with the EPT and GG examples, they can be worth very different amounts when they kick in. The MB poker calculator accounts for all these factors when it's making its calculations. Knowing the value of mystery bounty does not make your decision for you, but it will help you make better decisions. So, like anything in poker, the more information we have, the more accurate decisions we can make. So thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought and if you've got any ideas for future videos. We're going to look at some live hand breakdowns next, so stick around for those. And if you want to take your Mystery Bounty game to the next level, the Mystery Bounty Poker Calculator app is available now from the Apple and Google Play stores. So see you next time.